So we also have exclusive reaction from the White House tonight. Principal Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley joins me now. Hogan, thank you for being here tonight. I want to start by playing a soundbite from the president right after the Parkland shooting. He was at the White House with a group of senators, Republicans and Democrats, and here's what he said.
We didn't address it, Mr. President. Look, I think
you know why? Because you're afraid of the NRA, right? They do have great power. I agree with that. They have great power over you people. They have less power over me. I don't need it. What do I need?
So now, Hogan, you see some of the headlines today that say that after a discussion with Mr. LaPierre at the NRA, that the president caved. That's the headline that is everywhere today. Explain to us what the current posture is of the president on this with regard to background checks. You say meaningful background checks. What are they specifically, and what does he support?
Well, listen, I was in that meeting where the president spoke with Wayne LaPierre, and the president was very clear about what he wanted moving forward, and that is meaningful background checks. I was also standing very close to Mr. Pollock when he poured out his heart to the president and to the American people, expressing not just his sadness at what he had lost in his beautiful daughter Meadow, had his sons behind him. He also shared that anger he had. And he also pointed to some of the rhetoric that surrounds this debate. Every time there is one of these horrific tragedies, people retreat into their corners, but not this president. After Parkland, we got fix NICS passed. It actually allows federal, state, and local law enforcement to talk to each other so that if there is a red flag at one of the levels, it's all the way across all spectrums, so we get to know that background check can potentially stop some of these shootings. But the rhetoric has got to stop. And I'll tell you, every time we have one of these tragedies, the president comes out and says, like today, I'm for meaningful background checks. And what the left says is no, unless you're for saying to hell with the Second Amendment and taking guns away from law-abiding citizens, then you are responsible for the deaths of people across this country. That is absolutely a disingenuous argument,
you know,
but
obviously,
it's also very dangerous.
People are dug in on both sides. The NRA is dug in on their side, and people who want universal background checks that I know a lot of people disagree with in this country. We talked to Susan Collins the other night. She's very much in favor of, you know, a comprehensive background check program, which I think is more along the lines, we'll see, of what you guys mean by meaningful background checks. However, when the president, when the president was in that room right after Parkland, he said, you know, why is it you have to wait to 21 to get a handgun, and yet you can get an AR-15 at 18 years old? He was very passionate about that. Does he still believe that? Would he like it to be 21 for an AR-15, for example?
Again, I'm not going to get into specifics at this moment for one reason, and that is because the president wants a solution to these problems to protect American communities. And every time we have a conversation and something gets out of a phone call, the left goes crazy and talks about us being responsible for deaths and for murder, and it's absolutely ridiculous. The fact is, when the president talks about meaningful reforms and background checks at the legislative level and at the executive level, he wants more than legislation that feels good.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
He wants legislation that does good.
If you don't want to be specific,
every option to protect these American communities.
If you don't want to be specific about an age, for example, for AR-15s, we will wait to hear this program when it comes out. But give us a sense of when, you know, because it's almost September. Everybody's coming back after Labor Day. This issue is going to be very front and center as we move forward. And you know what? You and I both know that, unfortunately, as much as we might wish it to be so, this is going to happen again. And then it's likely going to happen again after that. And it's not going to go away all the way through the 2020 cycle. I hope I'm wrong. I hope to God I'm wrong. But so when is the time frame for getting something done on this issue?
Well, very quickly, and I don't want to put a time stamp on it, but I can tell you in my conversations with the president, he wants something done very soon, and we expect to maybe be having conversations about specificity before these members come back from their vacation. The fact is, the president wants our communities to be safe. He's going to look at every avenue possible that actually addresses the problems we face. This isn't about, as I said, feel good. It's about something that actually does good to protect the people. He wants that. And when he talks about mental health, the left says, oh, it's a cop-out. He doesn't really want background checks. He wants mental health. How do you think we find out if someone's mentally unstable or unfit to have a gun? It's with a background check. These things all work together for the protection of the American people. The president's doing it, and the left is ratcheting up the rhetoric, and it's irresponsible.
As you say, you know, with the Nix background check, you've got to, and as Andy Pollack said, that information has to be in the system. That somebody had a kill list and a rape list, that's got to be in the system. If somebody has threatened people at their school or their mother or punched their mother's teeth in, as he said about the Parkland shooter, that needs to be in the background check, or else, you know, they're only as good as the information that's in them.
And the president's talked about that also, because those are medical issues. And so how do we get to see those medical records, at least some type of temporary suspension of those HIPAA laws, so we can look back in those backgrounds and find out what those people have done? Those are targeted background checks that will actually make a difference.